the smirk that started the war. It was a cold Thursday evening in January when I finally realized I'd been in love with someone who only saw me as a project, a sidekick to her starring role. Isabel sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone as if she hadn't heard me speak for the third time. I had just poured my heart out again, trying to initiate a real conversation about the decay in our relationship. The way her words cut deeper each time we were around others, and how she'd made me feel small in private and in public. I told her I couldn't do it anymore, that the imbalance had hollowed out what used to be love, that I didn't feel like a person in this relationship, more like a convenience. And then she finally looked up, but not with softness, not with concern, not with even a shred of acknowledgement that I was drowning in silence. No, she smirked, that kind of smug, half-laughing expression that you only ever expect to see in movies, when the villain knows something you don't. And what she said next would set everything in motion. "You're not going anywhere," she said, folding her arms across her chest. "You need me more than I need you." I blinked, stunned. "Excuse me?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, Garrett. Look at you. Look at me. You're punching above your weight and we both know it. What are you without me? Some IT guy who plays video games and can barely match his socks." She stood up, walked over, and patted my cheek like I was a child who had just said something adorably stupid. "I make you look good. I got you into social circles you'd never access. My connections got you that promotion. My style advice is the only reason you don't dress like a teenager anymore. Face it, you'd be lost without me." I stared at her, the woman I had loved, the woman I had planned to build a future with. And suddenly, she looked different, like a stranger wearing Isabel's face, a mask pulled back. "You really believe that?" I asked quietly. She smirked. I didn't flinch. "Yeah, 6 months. We stay together, but I stop needing you. Let's see what happens." She waved me off like I was being dramatic, probably expecting me to retreat into the usual cycle. Apologize, admit fault, thank her for tolerating me. But I didn't. That night, while she watched her favorite show and scrolled Instagram, I sat at my desk and made a list. A literal list. Every single thing she claimed I needed her for. My appearance, my social life, my career, my ability to function like an adult, my personality, my worth, all of it. I wrote it down one line at a time like tasks to check off. And beneath it all, one last sentence in bold, underlined. Let's see if she was ever the reason, or just the obstacle. Month 1, redefining myself. Week 1, I started with the easiest attack point, my appearance. Isabel had always said I had the fashion sense of a college freshman who lived off instant ramen. And maybe I did. She picked my clothes, shopped for me, styled my outfits like I was her personal Ken doll. So I started small, watched a dozen YouTube videos on men's fashion, learned about fit, layering, color coordination, capsule wardrobes, ordered a few basics online, well-fitted jeans, solid tees, Oxford button-downs, clean white sneakers, leather boots. When the packages arrived, she sneered. "What's all this?" "New clothes," I replied nonchalantly. "Without asking me?" I shrugged. "Figured I could handle it." "You look ridiculous," she muttered, flipping her hair as she returned to her phone. Maybe, but I wasn't doing it for her. Week 2, I tackled the social circle. She'd been right. Most of our friends were her friends, people she'd curated, introduced me to, and subtly made clear I only had access to through her. So I joined a climbing gym, something she always rolled her eyes at. "Too sweaty," she'd said. "Not your vibe." But I showed up on a Tuesday, strapped into a harness, and found a group of regulars. Lawyers, nurses, a tattooed chef. "Where were you?" "Climbing gym." "Since when do you climb?" "Since tonight." She blinked. "That's so random. Why not?" I smiled. She didn't respond, but I could feel her unease beginning to flicker under the surface. Week 3, career. She claimed her connections landed me my promotion. Time to dismantle that fiction. I signed up for advanced certifications in cloud architecture. I started staying late, not just to work, but to network. Coffee with senior developers. Lunch with project leads. I took initiative. I asked questions. I volunteered for complicated tickets no one wanted. 2 weeks in, my manager pulled me aside and said, "Garrett, I love the initiative lately. Keep this up. I want to talk about moving you to the solutions architect team. Zero Isabel involvement. Zero connections. Just me." Week 4, the apartment. She always made design decisions. Said I had dorm room taste. I researched basic interior design, bought plants, moved furniture, hung framed art instead of posters. She walked in one afternoon and stopped cold. "Did you move the couch?" "Yeah." Opens up the space. "I make the design decisions." I just nodded. "Cool. I made this one." Her nostrils flared. She didn't say more. But I had made the decision, and more importantly, I wasn't asking for permission. Month 2. Starving the control. By the second month, Isabel began realizing something had shifted. I wasn't waiting for her feedback. I wasn't seeking her approval. I wasn't apologizing for existing. She noticed and she didn't like it, especially not when I started cooking. She had always bragged that I couldn't survive without her in the kitchen. So I signed up for a meal kit service.
Veggie-Rezepe Videos.
Learned how to chop onions properly. Discovered how searing fish gave it that perfect crisp. One Thursday, I plated pan-seared salmon with lemon risotto and roasted vegetables. She sat down, took one bite, and blinked. "Where did this come from?" "YouTube University," I said. "Gee, the collapse of a queen without her pawn." By the beginning of month 3, Isabel's smirk, the one that used to trail every insult and brush off every concern, was gone, replaced by something less certain. She was unsettled, disoriented by a reality she didn't recognize. The power she'd held so confidently between her perfectly manicured fingers was slipping, and for the first time in our entire relationship, she didn't know how to hold me in place. Her sarcastic little jabs didn't hit anymore. Her silence didn't punish me. And worst of all, for her, I wasn't playing along. I had stopped orbiting around her. And she could feel it. She started changing tactics. Passive compliments that felt forced. Awkward attempts at intimacy she'd once claimed I wasn't man enough to initiate. She even cooked dinner one night, a burnt chicken breast and boxed mac and cheese. I smiled and thanked her anyway. But I knew exactly what it was. Desperation disguised as generosity. A woman clawing for control in a room she no longer ruled. Month 4, I went for the jugular, my family. Isabel had long played the role of buffer between me and them. My mom was too emotional, my sister too dramatic, according to her. Over time, I'd accepted that story, believed her, let relationships wither because she made herself the only connection that mattered. But in March, I started calling my mom again, weekly at first. Reached out to my sister, invited her to lunch. I apologized. Rebuilt. My mom cried the first time I called just to check in. "I always thought you were too busy," she said gently. "No," I replied, glancing across the apartment at Isabel, pretending not to listen. "I wasn't busy. I was just redirected." A beat of silence. "Garrett," my mom said carefully, "she never wanted you to have anything that didn't start and end with her." And suddenly, it all made sense. Month 5, the shift in gravity. Every small thing I did became a weight Isabel couldn't carry. Every new choice "You've been distant lately?" she said one evening, sitting across from me as I folded laundry. "Distant?" I echoed, not looking up. "Like you don't care what I think anymore." I looked at her then, really looked at her. The panic had fully replaced the smugness now. Her eyes weren't confident, they were begging. "I care," I said softly. "I just don't need your approval anymore." Her face fell. "Since when?" "Since the night you said I needed you more than you needed me." That hit her like a slap. She blinked, opened her mouth, but no words came out. And I could see it, clear as day, the exact moment she realized the experiment was working. Except it hadn't been just an experiment. It had become a quiet, strategic revolution. I hadn't just become independent. I had become free. Month 6. The implosion begins. Isabel had always carried herself like someone untouchable. She believed she could say anything, do anything because she assumed she was the prize, the asset, the only source of value in the relationship. But month 6 revealed something unexpected. She needed me, badly. Not emotionally, Isabel never truly allowed vulnerability. But professionally, financially, socially, her empire was built on a foundation I didn't even realize I had been holding up. The first crack, her job. She worked in PR and was always flaunting her connections. What she failed to recognize or refused to acknowledge was that many of her top clients had come from my network. My college roommate's startup, my cousin's restaurant group, a mentor's tech firm, people I had introduced her to out of love, believing we were building something together. When I stopped inviting her to events, stopped bringing her along, the pipeline dried up. "Why didn't you tell me about Jason's launch party?" she asked one evening, arms crossed. "Didn't think you'd be interested," I said without looking up. "It was just tech people. I always go to those. To mock my nerdy friends," I said evenly. "Figured. You're being weird about money all of a sudden," she snapped. "I'm just thinking we should be more equitable," I replied. "You're a strong, independent woman, right?" She canceled her spa membership, downgraded her leased car, started checking grocery prices. I watched the horror dawn on her face every time she realized life had a price tag, and I was no longer footing the bill for her luxury. The third crack, social status. The people she thought she'd elevated me toward? They started inviting me directly. At a bar, I ran into one of her college friends while I was out with my climbing crew. "Garrett, heard about your promotion. That's amazing." "Thanks, Melissa," I replied. "We should grab lunch sometime. My cousin just started in tech and could use advice." Isabel walked in late, eyes wide. "I'm sure Garrett's too busy," she said cold. "I'd love to," I replied. "Here's my card." Her expression said it all. She had spent 4 years believing I needed her to shine. But all I'd needed was the chance to step out from under her shadow. The end of us, delivered via PowerPoint. The 6-month mark arrived on a Thursday, 6 months exactly since she smirked and told me I'd be nothing without her. I came home from work, sweaty from a climb, and flung the apartment transformed. She had hooked her laptop to the TV. "Sit," she said, in a tone both commanding and trembling. "We need to talk." The first slide read, "Us. Why we work." I sat in silence, stunned. She clicked through a 15-slide PowerPoint presentation. Slide 1. A photo of us from our first vacation. Slide 2. A list of everything she'd done for me. Slide 3. Photos of me from the past few months. Dressed well, smiling, thriving. Slide 4. The growth timeline. Slide 5. Why Garrett needs Isabel still. I listened, patiently, watched her try to spin the narrative. She claimed credit for my evolution, framed my independence as proof of her influence. She even said, "Everything you are now is because." Her face cracked, the performance shattered. She looked devastated. You're breaking up with me." "The experiment's over," I said softly. "Results are in." Aftershock, her collapse, my rise. The next week was a whirlwind of emotion, but not from me. From her. Anger. "You manipulated me." This was a twisted mind game. Bargaining. "We can fix this. Let's try therapy. I'll change." Guilt. "You're throwing away 4 years. For what?" Pride. Manipulation. "No one will ever love you like I do." That last one made me smile. "That's the point," I replied. "I don't want to be loved like that again." I moved out that weekend. Got a 1-bedroom apartment near the climbing gym. Blocked her on everything. She kept trying. Messages. Emails. "I miss you. You're making a mistake. You'll never find better." But I already had. 6 months later, the final update. It's been a year since that night in the kitchen. 6 months since I walked away. I'm now a senior solutions architect, leading a team of 12. I speak at conferences. I've completed multiple certifications. My apartment, formerly labeled dorm room chic, was recently featured on an interior design blog for its clean, minimalist, masculine warmth. I'm down 20 pounds, climbing 5.12 routes, and dating Rebecca from my book club. She's a pediatric nurse, owns her own place, and tells me I make her proud. Not once has she tried to change me. Not once has she made me feel small. My relationship with my family? Stronger than ever. My sister and I grab drinks every Friday. My mom visits monthly. Turns out they weren't the problem. Isabel was. As for her, she lost 3 major clients after losing my network. Couldn't sustain her business. Had to take a junior role elsewhere. Moved back in with roommates. Posted vague, bitter quotes on Instagram about men who fear strong women. Dated 3 guys in 6 months, none lasted. Last I heard, she was in therapy. And I mean this sincerely. I hope it helps her, because I don't hate,